Up to this point in the series, the focus of Revelation has been on the spiritual battle that manifests in the physical by referencing the history of the law and the conquest of Canaan through the lens of prophecy as a teaching tool to prepare the seven churches for what the road ahead looks like as they enter the years of the wilderness, prophetically speaking, because the second Exodus has occurred through the death and resurrection of the Messiah, and they have left Egypt, also called Babylon and Sodom, spiritually and prophetically speaking. In this part of the series, we now enter into the time of peace with the new heaven and new earth. In Revelation 21, verses 1 through 4, it says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Behold, the dwelling place, or tabernacle, of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for former things have passed away." First, it is important to note that the dwelling place or tabernacle of God is a reference to Yahushua the Messiah, as noted by the use of he in the statements following that are referring to the dwelling place or tabernacle of God. Next, when looking at the statement that a new heaven and new earth is seen, this is echoing the change of the land known as Canaan to what becomes known as the land of Israel, because the inhabitants of Canaan that provoked Yahuwah to wrath have been driven out of his holy land by a nation that he, Yahuwah, raised up, brought out of the bondage, the oppression through slavery, of another nation by destroying that nation, Egypt, and then using the people he redeemed with the intent to put an end to the Canaanites and their abomination. Therefore, the concept of a new heaven and new earth is rooted in this understanding, that a new people are now the inhabitants of the land formerly known as Canaan, and this new people are tasked with serving Yahuwah and the land as they were commanded to, so that it would go well with them, because this is a land that is significant to Yahuwah. In Joshua chapters 15 through 20, these chapters cover the allotment of the land east and west of the Jordan River that now belong to the tribes of Israel, along with the cities of refuge. In the ideal situation, they would possess all the land, eventually, up to the boundaries that Yahuwah mentions to Moses and Joshua, which is to the Euphrates River in the east, and up to the area in and around modern-day Syria in the north. As mentioned throughout the series at times, in the book of Joshua, the Jordan River acts as a prophetic boundary between heaven and earth. Therefore, as it relates to Revelation 21's mention of the new heaven and new earth, echoing the book of Joshua, it is with respect to understanding the prophetic significance of the Jordan River, because as mentioned, Joshua chapters 15 through 20 covers the allotment of the land east and west of the Jordan River that now belong to Israel. In other words, it covers the heavens and the earth, and how they are now new with respect to the people living there and their commitment to serve Yahuwah as they were instructed. When this understanding is scaled up to the perspective of Revelation, the Euphrates River echoes the same significance as the Jordan River, acting as the boundary between heaven and earth. The seven churches of Asia mentioned in Revelation are to the west of the Euphrates, but are outside the most northern boundary that is more relevant to them. This means that the churches are already outside the land and are in the wilderness. And as the book of Revelation echoes the law in the book of Joshua, these seven churches eventually cross the Euphrates River, echoing the crossing of the Jordan, to begin the final conquest that is an echo of the conquest of Canaan, but scaled up. In Revelation 21, verses 5 through 8, it says, "And he who was seated on the throne said, Behold, I am making all things new. Also he said, Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. And he said to me, It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give from the spring of water of life, without payment. The one who conquers will have this heritage, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, as for murderers, the sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death." These statements made by the Messiah, who is the one seated on the throne, is an echo of the statements made by Yahuwah or Joshua throughout Joshua chapters 15 to 20, when the land is allotted. Specifically, it is the following statements. In Joshua 18 verses 2 and 3 it says, "There remained among the people of Israel 7 tribes whose inheritance had not yet been appointed. So Joshua said to the people of Israel, How long will you put off going in to take possession of the land, which Yahuwah, the God of your fathers, has given you?" Referring to what was previously stated in Joshua 13 verses 6 and 7, where Yahuwah says he will drive out the people from before Israel. This is related to the statement in Revelation, "Behold, I am making all things new." In Joshua 18 verse 4 it says, "Provide 3 men from each tribe, and I will send them out, that they may set out and go up and down the land. They shall write a description of it, with a view to their inheritance, and then come to me." This relates to the statement in Revelation that says, "Also he said, Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true." In Joshua 18 verses 9 and 10 it says, "So the men went and passed up and down in the land, and wrote in a book a description of it by towns and 7 divisions. Then they came to Joshua to the camp at Shiloh, and Joshua cast lots for them in Shiloh before Yahuwah. And there Joshua apportioned the land to the people of Israel, to each his portion." In Joshua 19 verse 51 it says, "These are the inheritance that Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun, and the heads of the fathers' houses of the tribes of the people of Israel distributed by lot at Shiloh before Yahuwah, at the entrance of the tent of meeting. So they finished dividing the land. This is relevant to the statement in Revelation as says, "And he said to me, It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give from the spring of the water of life without payment. The one who conquers will have his heritage, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, as for murderers, the sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death." As it relates to Revelation 21 verse 8 concerning those whose portion is the lake of fire and sulfur, this is an echo of Joshua chapter 20, which deals with cities of refuge for the manslayer to abide safely in from the avenger of blood, until he stood before the congregation for judgment, and or until the death of the high priest at that time. They are also cities for the stranger sojourning among them. Revelation takes a harsher tone, but it is in the context that this is the renewal of the heavens and earth, and at that point, no one who would fit the description of those things described in verse 8 would be participating in the new heaven and new earth. They would instead be cast into the lake of fire and sulfur. It is worth noting that in Joshua 19 verse 50, Joshua received Timnath Serah as his inheritance, which was given to him by the people of Israel through the command of Yahuwah, and it is in the hill country of Ephraim. The meaning of Timnath Serah is portion of the sun. He rebuilt it and settled in it. In Revelation 21 verses 9 through 14 it says, "Then came one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls full of the 7 last plagues, and spoke to me, saying, Come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great high mountain, and showed me the holy city Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, having the glory of God, its radiance like a most rare jewel, like a jasper, clear as crystal. It had a great high wall, with 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and on the gates the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel were inscribed. On the east 3 gates, on the north 3 gates, on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb." In Joshua 21 verses 1 through 8 it says, "Then the heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites came to Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun, and to the heads of the fathers' houses of the tribes of the people of Israel. And they said to them at Shiloh in the land of Canaan, Yahuwah commanded through Moses that we be given cities to dwell in, along with their pasture lands for our livestock. So by command of Yahuwah the people of Israel gave to the Levites the following cities and pasture lands out of their inheritance. The lot came out for the clans of the Kohathites. So those Levites who were descendants of Aaron the priest received by lot from the tribes of Judah, Simeon, and Benjamin, 13 cities. And the rest of the Kohathites received by lot from the clans of the tribes of Ephraim, from the tribe of Dan, and from the half-tribe of Manasseh, 10 cities. The Gershonites received by lot from the clans of the tribe of Issachar, from the tribe of Asher, from the tribe of Naphtali, and from the half-tribe of Manasseh, and Bashan, 13 cities. The Merarites, according to their clans, received from the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and the tribe of Zebulun, 12 cities. These cities and their pasture lands the people of Israel gave by lot to the Levites, as Yahuwah commanded through Moses. The description of the New Jerusalem, with the 12 gates, at which the 12 angels stand guard, and the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel inscribed on the gates, echoes the cities and pasture lands given to the Levites by the people of Israel. 3 tribes contribute to each clan of the Levites, with the exception of the Gershonites, who receive a portion from Manasseh in addition to 3 tribes. This is likely due to Manasseh's land being so large and being on the east and west side of the Jordan. Remember in Revelation 7, the following is the list of the tribes mentioned: Judah, Reuben, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh, Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. Note that Dan and Ephraim are missing. In Revelation, Ephraim is replaced by his father Joseph, and Dan is replaced by Levi, due to the events recorded in the book of Judges, where the tribe of Dan does not obtain its inheritance and pursues idolatry while passing through the land of Ephraim. It is also important to notice that, in Revelation, the foundations of the city walls had the names of the 12 apostles inscribed on it, upon which the gates are connected to. Therefore, this indicates that the foundation of the New Jerusalem is built upon the teaching of the apostles. But entrance into the New Jerusalem is granted after going through the angel that protects the gate, echoing a similar picture portrayed in Genesis 3, with a cherubim and flaming sword that protects the way to the tree of life. This means obedience to the commandments of Yahuwah that were first given to Israel is expected. This is confirmed at the end of Revelation 21 in verse 27, when it says, "But nothing unclean will ever enter it, the New Jerusalem, nor anyone who does what is detestable or false, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life." This is language directly referencing the commandments that were given to Israel. To add to this concept, it should be noted that the gems mentioned in Revelation 21 are not mentioned together elsewhere in the canon. Rather, it is a combination of stones that are pulled from Exodus 28, Ezekiel 28, and Isaiah 54, with Ezekiel 28 making specific reference to the Garden of Eden, where the first commandment was to obey the word of God, which was to not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In Revelation 21, verses 15 through 21, the dimensions of the city, the New Jerusalem, are given. The city is 4 square, meaning its length and width are the same. It is then mentioned that the city is measured with a rod to be 12,000 stadia, the equivalent of about 1,380 miles. The walls are mentioned as 144 cubits, which is about 432 feet. The use of the stadion and cubit units of measurement together in reference to the city of the New Jerusalem support the understanding that the New Jerusalem, the wife of the Lamb, is the collective body of the faithful regardless of one's background, so long as they are following the Lamb. These dimensions echo Joshua 21 verses 9 through 40, which list all the regions where each clan of Levi was given cities in their pasture lands. In Joshua 21 verses 41 through 42 it says, "The cities of the Levites in the midst of the possession of the people of Israel were in all 48 cities with their pasture lands. These cities each had its pasture lands around it. So it was with all these cities." Just as the tabernacle was in the midst of the tribes in the wilderness years, the cities of the Levites were in the midst of Israel in all the possessions that the people of Israel gave them. This concept is later echoed with Jerusalem and the temple in Ezekiel 5 verse 5, where Jerusalem is referred to as being set in the midst of the nations and countries that are around her. Therefore, in seeing how the New Jerusalem is an echo of the cities and pasture lands of the Levites, all the references throughout the prophets and the words of the Messiah in his parables of the faithful being like sheep and leading us to good pastures now have a greater clarity and contain a much greater depth of understanding to be had. Keep in mind that these cities and pasture lands are unwalled, physically speaking, but in Revelation, the New Jerusalem is spoken of as having walls that are built upon the foundation of the message of the apostles and gates that reflect the commandments given to Israel. But, as it is said in Zechariah 2, verses 1 through 5, "And I lifted my eyes and saw, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then I said, Where are you going? And he said to me, To measure Jerusalem, to see what is its width and what is its length. And behold, the angel who talked with me came forward, and another angel came forward to meet him, and said to him, Run, say to that young man, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as villages without walls, because of the multitude of people and livestock in it. And I will be to her a wall of fire all around, declares Yahuwah, and I will be the glory in her midst." In other words, the totality of the relationship between Joshua and Revelation, along with the words of Zechariah, remind us of the hedge of protection that Yahuwah is to those who are faithful to him, as explicitly mentioned in the book of Job. With that hedge of protection, the evil one cannot touch us. In Revelation 21, verses 22 through 27, it says, "And I saw no temple in the city, for its temple is the Lord God the Almighty and the Lamb. And the city has no need of sun or moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and its lamp is the Lamb. By its light will the nations walk, and the kings of the earth will bring their glory into it, and its gates will never be shut by day, and there will be no night there. They will bring into it the glory and the honor of the nations, but nothing unclean will ever enter it, nor anyone who does what is detestable or false, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life." This last part of Revelation 21 reiterates things already mentioned earlier in the chapter, but in a different way. As mentioned in verse 2, there is no physical tabernacle or temple that will be in the new city of Jerusalem, because that is fulfilled in Yahushua the Messiah. He is the temple of God the Father. Nothing unclean will enter the New Jerusalem, nor anyone who does what is detestable or false, meaning nothing that is contrary to the commandments will be permitted in the New Jerusalem. Again, this is all related to the description of a physical structure in verses 9 through 21, where the walls are founded on the message of the apostles, which is the life, death, and resurrection of the Son of God. And the entrance into the New Jerusalem is a guarded path that demands obedience to the very commandments the Messiah kept himself, and expects those who say they follow him to keep, to walk as he walked. This last part of Revelation 21 is an echo of the last part of Joshua 21 verses 43 to 45, which says, "Thus Yahuwah gave to Israel all the land that he swore to give to their fathers, and they took possession of it, and they settled there. And Yahuwah gave them rest on every side, just as he sworn to their fathers. Not one of all their enemies had withstood them, for Yahuwah had given all their enemies into their hands. Not one word of all the good promises that Yahuwah had made to the house of Israel had failed. All came to pass."